Welcome to the Warrens Occult Museum. We're here filming live when you get to witness the transportation of Annabelle from the old case to the new case. The most diabolical, most haunted, most evil item in the occult museum.
Idol. Satanic idol right here. This is something that was found in the woods of...
Hello and welcome back to the most amazing channel on the internet. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, and today we're talking all about the top 10 scary items at the Warren Occult Museum. Now for those of you who haven't heard of the museum, it is a basement filled with cursed oddities collected by the infamous paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now you may know this pair from the Annabelle movie franchise. They were real people, and a lot of their real items are located in the museum in Monroe, Connecticut. Visitors have to book private appointments to view the collection, and there is a strict no-touch policy as for your own safety. It seems that the witching hour comes at 9 PM every night too. Now before we start talking about all of the spooky stuff in the museum, why don't you guys let me know if you have ever come across a cursed or haunted object. I think that there's a chair in my mum's house that is legit haunted. I hate being around it. It sits in the hallway. It makes me very uneasy. Mum, if you're watching, get rid. Also, while you're down there leaving me a comment, please do like this video and share it with a friend. If you're not yet subscribed to Most Amazing Top 10, do it. If you want to check out the links to our Instagrams, they are in the description box down below, and stick around to the end of the video where I'll be reading out some comment replies. Alright, here we are. Spooky things. Coming in at number 10, let's just get it out of the way, we have Annabelle. Okay, so we all know that Annabelle the doll resides in the occult museum, so let's just honestly get her out of the way and move on. Annabelle is a Raggedy Ann doll that lives in a glass box because she simply can't be trusted to be unsheathed to the real world. The doll is demonically possessed by a dead child named Annabelle. Hip hip hooray. The doll has portrayed some horrifying and very evil behaviour, and the Warrens were given the doll by a student nurse who simply couldn't handle having her around anymore. Annabelle the doll was the inspiration behind the scary movies The Conjuring and Annabelle Creations, so a pretty scary plushie. Visitors at the museum are warned profusely not to even touch the glass cage that the creepy old smiling Annabelle sits in. You don't want to find out what kind of malevolence she could unleash if you break the rules. Moving on to number 9, we have a vampire coffin. It seems that the vampire coffin on display in the occult museum was found by the Warrens themselves and was used by a real-life modern-day vampire. But was it though? Let's take a look at it, shall we? I mean, there really is rather a lot going on here. There's a window with a creepy doll head on a plinth. Apparently the plinth is important. There's some kind of mounted devil head too, a spooky necklace, and a picture of the alleged vampire in question. And like, what is happening at the top there? Also, is the vampire who this belongs to pissed that his bed's been stolen? Like, I would be. Is he gonna come looking for it? So many questions. Coming into number 8, we have child gravestones. Okay, but like, actually what is wrong with the Warrens? I get it, occult museum and everything, but do we not draw the line at tombstones of children? Apparently, we do not. These wee little graves can actually be found outside the main museum, you know, just to like create a more total experience in the walk up to the building. It is said that the graves on display belong to children who were used in ritual sacrifice for satanic spells. Coming into number 7, we have the 2 deaf dolls. These dolls are a little bit different from Annabelle, as they are said to be voodoo dolls or witch dolls. Sure, they look creepy. I mean, one of them has a noose around its head for goodness sake. The other one has had its eyes gouged out, which isn't better by any means. The story behind them is even creepier, because you see, voodoo dolls are used to bring real harm to real people. The noose on the neck of one of the dolls probably indicates that someone died, and gouged out eyes, well, that isn't a great sign either. It seems that a doll collector came across these dolls and brought them home. I would leave them very much where they were. On bringing them home, she found that her son's health began deteriorating rapidly. Now it seems that some of the witch's voodoo doll magic had retained and picked the boy as its new vessel. The collector contacted the Warrens, who removed the dolls, after which the boy recovered. But the story continues. It seems that a visitor to the museum broke the rules and touched one of the dolls, and was later involved in a horrifying accident. This is what happens when you touch the creepy dolls. Coming into number 6, we have shrunken heads. Okay, do you know what shrunken heads are? Because if you don't, let me break it to you. They are the real decapitated corpse heads of dead people that have been prepared as tribal trophies. Sounds great. To make a shrunken head, you have to remove the skull meticulously, and then you sew the eyes and mouth and nose shut. All of the brain matter and fat from the head is also removed. A ball is stuffed in the head to keep the shape, and then the head is boiled with water-containing tannins. Ugh. Head soup. No. The head is then dried with hot rocks and buried in sand, usually for a year. Great. So in the Occult Museum there are real decapitated heads, and these ones have been used for tribal magic rituals. There is some seriously bad juju associated with some of these heads. Coming into number 5, we have the Summoning Mirror. A classic haunted mirror. Mirrors have long been associated with the spirit world. Indeed, legends like Candyman and Bloody Mary seem to suggest that spirits can be summoned from paranormal planes using a mirror. This isn't just any mirror at the Occult Museum. Of course it isn't. This is a special conjuring mirror used to bring forth spirits and demons. The only thing is though, you don't know if what answers your call will be a good spirit or a bad spirit. To me, I have to say the mirror is pretty beautiful and lavish, like I'd like that in my bedroom, although maybe without the side of spirits popping up. They can stay out. Coming into number 4, we have the haunted organ. Who this organ belongs to, we simply don't know, but according to the Occult Museum, it starts playing itself at random intervals. Ooh. It is thought that the organ is haunted by a particularly musical spirit, and that the instrument provides a macabre soundtrack to the witching hour at the museum. On top of the organ sits all kinds of other creepy stuff, a sign which reads "Restless Spirit", a hand holding a small ball, a bust of a child, a big frog, a selection of spooky owls. Honestly, wonder how the organ feels about all the clutter. Marie Kondo needs to get in, sort it out. Coming into number 3, we have a brick from the most haunted house in England. The story of the Borley Rectory is actually pretty chilling. The building was constructed in 1862 in Victorian times in Essex, and rumours of its haunting were rife from the very beginning. The building was severely damaged by a fire in 1939. Ghost hunters claim the activity is related to a Benedictine monastery built in the area in 1362. A monk was said to have been executed, and a nun bricked alive in the walls of the convent after the pair had an affair. It is thought that the nun and the monk haunt the grounds and had a hand in the fire that tore through the rectory building on the site. Before the fire, it was said the owners of the house had found human bones on the property and experienced poltergeist activity. Despite the fire rendering the building inhabitable, hauntings in the ruins continue. Now, of course, good old Ed and Lorraine had to go for a jaunt there, and they took a token back to the museum with them, a brick from the ruins. Was it one of the bricks that was used to keep the nun in the wall? Does it carry any of the bad energy from its horrible history? Possibly. Coming into number 2, we have the Wood Dweller. Ugh, the story behind this object honestly fills me with fear. So the story goes that the satanic idol was found in the woods by a guy who was out hunting. The man said that he walked up to the doll and had a horrible feeling. Have a listen to what the Warren Museum had to say about it.
He didn't know why. He looked at it, it was so spooky to him. He got this feeling of dread and this feeling of horror. And he said he was sitting next to it, just almost lost all his strength.
Honestly, that's terrifying. It scared a grown man, a huntsman. All of his energy was just drained, and he said he was filled with dread. Ugh. He said he turned away from the idol, and then he saw a man wearing a black cloak walking in step opposite to him. It seemed that the horned idol is used for satanic rituals for summoning evil spirits. The man did make his way out of the forest and told the Warrens about the idol. Of course, Ed and Lorraine went to seek it. Lorraine Warren was particularly affected by the piece and said that one of the demonic spirits inside the idol sent her into a catatonic state for days. She even claimed it made her levitate. Does this sound like something should be on display to the public? To me, no. Put it away. Okay, this needs to be put away. It freaked me out harder than Annabelle, and I don't know who's gonna make a movie about this, but they should. We have the heart-stopping Shadow Doll at number 1. Let's have a look at this Shadow Doll, shall we? Honestly, my eyes. Take it away. This doll is said to have been created by black magic and is comprised of human and animal bones. Hip hip hurrah. The life-size doll is labelled as a doll of shadows and hexes, and if you ever visit the museum, you should be careful not to look the doll in the eye, for it seems that it has the ability to visit you in your nightmares, giving you a fright so hard you could have a heart attack. apparently, even so much as photographing this doll could expose you to its hex, so be careful. The Warrens say that the doll was given to them by a couple who found it in an antique store. I know, right? Who wouldn't look at this doll and think, what a beautiful vintage piece worth taking home? Obviously, just ignoring the warning signs of the doll's demonic fashion sense and the soul-sucky open mouth and the gormless eyes. Yep, the couple took it home and began experiencing terrible sleep paralysis and nightmares, and at this point, I'm thinking, who do they have to blame but themselves? The husband even woke up with scratches on his back. Who do you gift a horrible demonic doll to? The Warrens, of course. So guys, that was the top 10 scary items at the Ed and Lorraine Warren Museum. Honestly, that was a really terrifying list, was it not? I'm not sure if I'd want to go there. Have you guys ever been there? Let me know. So before I go, I'm just going to read some comments from one of my most recent videos, the Scary Tennessee Urban Legends. Scatterbrain said, I used to live in Memphis, Tennessee. At the Orpheum Theatre, there is a ghost of a little girl who died tragically after getting hit by a carriage. Little girl ghosts freak me out the hardest. Pure County said, I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, really close to the Smoky Mountains. It's actually pronounced Chickamauga. Oh, and the body farm is not only real, but it is a few miles away from my house. I don't like that. A channel said, I'm from the moon. Can you review the moon next? I love that you think these urban legend lists are like reviews of the places. Like Tennessee, great state, shame about all the ghouls and the demon pond. No. But anyway, I would like to review the moon, so if you can get me a ticket, I'll happily do it. Alright Rebecca, stop wanging on with this nonsense. Guys, don't forget to let me know if you've ever experienced a cursed object or a paranormal experience. Let me know in the comments section down below, because I love this kind of stuff. And once again, Mum, if you're watching, get rid of that chair. Honestly, I don't like it. I'd come home more if the chair wasn't there. Thank you guys for watching. Please do leave a thumbs up on this video and share it with a friend. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!